So for the past year, I have been using Zapier heavily in every integration I made. Recently, I've decided to go into make.com, maybe have a subscription for a month or two, and really investigate the tool. I already had an idea, but you never know until you test it yourself. So I've done that, and I tried to dig deep in the tool, uncover all the small things here and there, and I'm here to you with a comparison. I hope you like it, and by the end, if you stick around, I will tell you, after digging deep in make.com with my knowledge on Zapier, what eventually I will go forward with as my main automation tool. And by the way, I'm gonna look at the comparison with you, and then we're gonna move to the actual tools just to have a look at them for you to have a point of reference of what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's take it step by step, phase by phase. This time I'm trying to do some visuals to make this maybe more appealing and easier to understand. And let's start with the obvious thing. So the interface. Zapier is really intuitive. I would say if you give it to someone who knows just a little bit about automation, if then that kind of thing, and introduce him to the tool, with no time they will be able to start building automations and figure their way around the tool. It is user-friendly in the sense that it's very easy to know where to go to, what button to click to get to which part of the tool. And based on the first point here, it is perfect for beginners. Now, do not confuse this that it is not a powerful tool. It's a super powerful tool, but it's beginner friendly. And then last but not least for Zapier, it's tutorial rich. So if you go to their documents, those are amazing. If you go to YouTube, there's tons of videos about Zapier, including this one. If you go even to Reddit and other boards, you'll find so many people talking about the tool, trying to help other people using the tool. So from that perspective, I don't think there's any area in Zapier that you will not find someone covering it or solving a problem about it. Now, if you go to Make, and you can tell Make is the purple, so similar to the logo, and the orange is Zapier. So when we go to Make, it's overwhelming at the beginning, especially when you start looking at each scenario and each operation and what needs to go in there. But it is as well an amazing visual builder. So Zapier on that end is very rigid. When we go to Make, you can move things around. You can create, I think, visually so much more with it. But it comes with a higher complexity from the get-go. So it will be intimidating to so many people who jumped onto the tool. And I consider myself good with automation, and it was really intimidating to me. It still is intimidating as a tool to me, and I'm still trying to figure my way around it. So let's move to another really important aspect in really selecting the tool, which is cost. Now, and we'll look now at the cost as per the tools themselves. By the way, both of them have a free tier plan. Very limited. I mean, you want just to see how things work, you can do it. If you want to do any kind of good even automation, you will need to have a paid plan. Now, I'm covering the first paid plan by each tool. So when it comes to Zapier, you have the starting plan is at $19.99 per month for 750 tasks. Now you're going to hear this term tasks versus what we have with Make of operation. Somehow, more or less, those are the same thing. They are, each of them, the firing of a step in your automation, more or less. Before you jump to any conclusions, just wait a second until I cover this part, because the cost could seem something, but in reality, there are other hidden costs. So here, let's look, for example, at Zapier. So Zapier will offer you, as part of the membership, all their actions, triggers, anything that is developed basically by Zapier for free. In terms of each time those fire, there will be no tasks taken out of the 750 tasks that you have in your monthly subscription. And those are not just simple, mediocre kind of functions. They are super powerful apps that Zapier created that I use a lot, and I will cover one of them that will affect cost significantly in this comparison. On the flip side of things, on Make, I felt If you want to do the same operation on Zapier and Make, you're going to need more steps on Make. And even if you do it in the same number of steps, the number of operations that you're going to consume are more. Because regardless if the app is by Make or by a third party, each time those steps fire, you're going to consume an operation. So this is something to keep in mind while looking at the cost. Now I'll carry on around other aspects, but I'll come to one of the things that might affect your judgment when it comes to cost just in a minute. Now, one more thing that I intentionally put under the cost, which is scaling. If you go online, search a comparison between the tools, everyone will be talking about scaling. Scaling in Make is much better than Zapier. It sounds, on face value, honestly, I think that makes sense. But when I thought about it, most people create those systems. At some point, they give them away to businesses, they sell them to businesses, or they set them up for the business. So the scaling part is always linked to the cost. I agree that if you scale operations big time, probably you'll be paying more money in Zapier than Make. Now, does that come with no value? I don't think so. I think it comes with a big value that Zapier delivers. I would assume that if a customer comes to you and tell you, I need an automation, I need you to build me an automation that does 1, 2, and 3, the reason they are coming to you is that they are not as tech savvy maybe as you. They do not want to go through the headache of building these things or dealing with them. Their business is something else, and they're hiring you to do that for them. The problem I see, and maybe if you know more about that, you can leave me a comment in the comment section. You offload kind of automations for your customer based on Make. I think you're gonna get lots of calls back to deal with errors, fix things getting broken, and so forth. I think that problem will be much more diminished if you give your customer an automation based on Zapier. I think Zapier is so easy that even a person with minimal technical knowledge, with little bit of training, they can manage 90% of fixing, improving, developing the automation that you sell them. So this is something really important to think about. So when you hear scalability, think seriously about if you're in the business of selling integrations. For example, I'm not, I don't care about that. But if you're thinking about that, think seriously what kind of customers you have. And if your customers are really good with the technicalities of something like Make and they can deal with it, by all means, give them something that you can sell cheaper, and even they can maintain probably cheaper and run more cheaper, and they'll appreciate that. But if you think there's someone who has nothing to do with technology, they have totally different business, they need the automation, you need to consider Zapier. And this is why I wrote here, scaling is tech-enabled in Zapier and scaling is tech-challenged in Make. Now, the thing I told you about that I think you should be aware of and really look into if you need or not, that could affect how you look at the pricing is, again, the apps that Zapier offers for free. One of them is Code by Zapier. And what this tool does, or what this app does, it can actually get you to put small snippets of Python or JavaScript code into your automation and run them as part of the automation. And if you did any of that in your automation, you know how much powerful this step is. I think it is the differentiator for all the integrations that I made that are special, where you don't find lots of people doing them out there. I think it is the superpower step for many automations. It can solve problems with ease. It can do so many things. And honestly, building automations for me will be super limited without this step. And I will show you some of these things when we look at the interface. Now in Make, they don't have that app natively, but in their app store, third-party apps, they have one app that can do this for you. But that app comes with a $9 per month subscription. If you want to do any kind of serious automation, you cannot avoid this tool or step. So Zapier gives it for free. And if you go to Make, you're going to have to buy the service from the third-party app and then use it, which comes at around $9 per month on top of the Make subscription. So if we look at the numbers here, this will become $18 really for me to have it at full operation, and this is $19.99. So they become neck to neck when it comes to cost. Now there is a way around this. So if you know your way around creating a small application, let's say in Python, and then deploying it to Azure or AWS as an endpoint application with a Flask, and then you can add an HTTP request in Make and start calling it. And if that's a light application, usually those will operate in your monthly free tier kind of offering by these platforms. So you'll be good there. For Make, for now, for one of the applications I use easily every day through Code by Zapier. In Zapier, I had to develop that application, upload it or deploy it to Azure, and then call it through an HTTP request because I don't want to pay the $9. I already have 2 subscriptions here. I don't want to add more money to what I build in my automations. Now, other things, maybe minor, but I think really nice to know about when you consider these tools. In Zapier, they have other things in their ecosystem. Now, some people might question what they're trying to do there. Some people might like them. I think they're okay, but maybe they should stick and invest much more in the automation, in these apps, which is the core of their business. So they have tables and it's for $20 a month. Honestly, if I have $20, sorry Zapier, I would go to Airtable and have a subscription there rather than do it in Zapier. They have interfaces, which is nice. Again, something I can do in Airtable. It's much better. And then they have something very interesting on bots. I think that's different. I think this is something that could go somewhere. They have an AI builder. This is for Zapier. So basically you can go into the builder. I can show you an example and just prompt your way into your automation. Now, in most cases, these do not come as perfect, but honestly, also in most cases, at least it will give you the structure that you can start just fixing, maybe remove a step or two, replace them with something else that you know about. But it's improving really fast and it will be super helpful for anyone who's new to the tool. And lastly, in Zapier, if you're on the paid plan, you have unlimited amount of Zaps. So you can create as much automations as possible. The only limitation you have is the number of tasks that you consume a month. Now going to Make, they have a user custom app ability. So if there's a service you like, it's not available on Make, you can create a custom app for it through whatever authentication you need. It could be OAuth 2 or API, whatever you need, it's there. It's very flexible, but it's very technical as well. So I got challenged with it. I believe Make is no-code tool. They should try to make it better. It's a big ask maybe, but if they help their users, especially the less technical ones, of doing more of these apps, I think Make will become a much more appealing tool for a bigger audience. Now, something worthwhile mentioning is it's a solid community. So if you go to their community website, you'll see it's very active. You put something, you get a response. If you go online, you see lots of people who are passionate about Make. More, I think, are on the side of doing business with automation, but there is a solid community around Make that I think is something promising. The more this community grows, things will be solved, people can answer your questions. So the more people, the better outcome for new users. And as Zapier, you can create as much scenarios as you want. You're only limited with operations. This was a typo here when I wrote it. So it's not unlimited operations, it's unlimited scenario. Okay, so before I tell you what each tool can do to improve things for their users and maybe grow, I will go show you a high level and quick view of the price, and then we'll go to see the interface of each just to get an idea what I was talking about before we go back, and then I'll tell you what they can do better and I will reveal what I will stick with going forward as my main automation tool and why. Okay, let's take a quick look at the Make price and you can go and check that for yourself. I'll put the links in the description. So this is the Make price page and you can see they have multi-tier kind of subscription. So this is what I subscribe to. I want to have advanced features. I will not get in the core, but you can start with $11 per month. And I think this offers many things that many people will find sufficient and enough. I went for the Pro and we'll scroll down just for you to do it on your own later on to see the really itty bitty of each plan and what it offers. And then you have the teams. And you can see, just for you to remember, when we go to Zapier, so this is 11 for 10,000 operations, 18 for 10,000 operations, but you're getting additional features here. Like, most important for me, one of them is the file size that you can use. And then you have the teams. Now you can scroll down on your own and look line by line what differentiate each plan for the next. And that could help you decide what's right for you. Now, if we go to Zapier, it is the same. So they have the free plan and then $19.99 per month for the professional. And when you go to team, you can see the big hike in price compared to what we've seen on Make. This is $69 per month, and then the enterprise. And again, when you look at price, I think it's a very limited criteria to make a judgment on cost. Price doesn't equal cost. So I am paying $19.99, for example, when it comes to the professional. I think my cost will be very similar to using Make for a similar operation, because I'll have to buy something from outside, as I covered. And again, you can go here and see what each feature will give you. And this is less detailed than what Make has, but it's enough for you to make a decision if you think Zapier is your tool of choice. Okay, so let's have a quick look at their interfaces, just for you to get an idea. If you know the interface, if you know both tools, I don't know what the hell you're doing here, you can skip that part. If you don't know them, this might be interesting, and then we'll go to the conclusion and see what we can do around such a decision. So I will start with Make. So if you look at Make, this is the interface, and it is definitely visually superior to Zapier. You can, use things in a way that are visually explanatory to the process. Most automations are basically or fundamentally a process. So using Make can really help you give your customer, or maybe if you're explaining a video, the idea of what you're doing just from the flow of things. Now, there are smaller things that are nuances that I'll cover later that differentiate each tool or give one a more edge over the other. But here, one of the things I loved around Make is what they call a router. And basically, a router is something where you can have branches in your automation. This is something you have in Zapier, but it's very limited. It's not limited here. And the other one is the iterator. So this is one thing I really like, which basically you can do loops within the operation or automation. In the middle of the operation, you can have one loop, and after some time, you can have a different loop, at the end, a different loop. That's super powerful. Again, that's one thing you don't have in Zapier. Maybe that makes Zapier efficient, but it's limiting. So because there's code behind everything you put in here, and I didn't honestly see anyone complain about Make. Actually, people probably go to Make because of these features. But at the same time, so this looks sweet and good. When you go into building your steps, your apps into your automation, you will face certain challenges, because here you're going to start to get somehow aware of doing these kind of arguments into Make. I wouldn't say it's the hardest thing in the world, something that you can learn, but many of these things, if not most, in Zapier are covered by built-in capabilities by Zapier themselves. Even if you're an expert, with time, you'll appreciate Zapier with helping you build things faster and having less headache to think about these nuances of really putting things together in your automation, and focus on the actual goal of your automation, in my opinion. But overall, this is an amazing way of doing things. And just to give you the idea, if you remember, I told you the code kind of issue with Make. So these are two HTTP requests. Each of them is for an application I have on Azure, and I have basically a call, HTTP call, to get an output from them in Make, avoiding paying extra money in the third-party tool. And by the way, if you're interested in how you make these kind of tools, I'm not a developer. I learned all of this from ChatGPT. If you want me to give you a quick video around how to do these things, please leave me a comment in the comment section. Okay, just last thing, I think this is an awesome feature. If you click this button, auto align, it will fix things to look really neat. Just I thought to share it. So let's go to the Zapier interface, and it's very straightforward. You look at it, it's mostly in sequence. You go step by step. There's a logical sequence in it. But when it comes to doing these paths or iterations, you get limited, because, for example, the path part in Zapier is available, but it can be the last step of your automation. Iterations work the same way. So you cannot do a path and then subpath to that path. That doesn't happen in Zapier. Also, if you look at all these applications with the orange color, those are the native Zapier application that each time they run, you are not charged a task. And you can see how much of them I use. So from the scheduler to the formatter to the webhook to the supercode by Zapier, again, webhook here. And you can see it is very simple. So if I look, for example, even at ChatGPT, I noticed that using ChatGPT in Zapier is definitely easier than using it in Make, and a big difference. And just to give you a quick idea, let me just click edit on my draft and go to the chat GPT. If you look at it, it's very clean, mostly drop downs. Barely you'll have to put any kind of equation or argument or syntax into your automation. Things come in easy. You can build it quickly, run it, test it, and go forward. So that is the special thing about using Zapier. So there are other smaller things in Zapier and Make that you can check for yourself. I'm just giving you the big stuff. So now let's just go back to our comparison. I'll cover what I think each platform should do if you're interested in that. But at the end, I'm going to tell you what I have decided for myself going forward and how I think you should really look at this and think about it to make your own decision. Okay, so we're back in our comparison. Let's look at things that each platform can do. I really think Zapier should think about and invest more time, maybe less on tables and interfaces and more on their user interface. I think there's so many things appealing in Make that maybe Zapier should be considering. One small thing that is amazing also in Make is that you can copy paste the steps. So you can copy it and paste it again to reuse it. You can actually copy and paste the whole branch, and not only within the same scenario, but even between scenarios. That's super powerful if you're doing things at mass scale. Zapier, think about that. It will just be something really needed by the community, I think. And also think about the routing and the mid-zap iterations. So this is something in Make that I think is super powerful. There are ways around it in Zapier, don't get me wrong, but it will get lots of headache. If Zapier's whole thing is about making automation easy, you should give us more features to keep it easy. Because if I want to do some of the branching that you can do easily on Make, I'll have to do it through different means on Zapier. I can still do it, it will happen fast, but just a headache that I honestly would like something closer to Make. Now let's go to Make. I think Make, and this is one of the biggest issues I have with Make, honestly. I think they can improve their scenario testing. When I run the scenario, I'm just testing how things going so I can continue building. At some point, I lose all the outputs from the previous steps. And what I learned with trial and error is, you have a button on Make where you can download a text file of that output. So I started basically opening a document and copying and pasting all these outputs, which is hectic and unnecessary. And I think they can easily make this much more easier for people testing and building. I found online people have hacks around this. Still, for me, it's just a headache. Something I would like to have always there. If I ran my operation once, I would like to always have the output recorded in a memory so I can keep testing and using it without running the previous steps. This is something you have already in Zapier. So for example, I already used around 200 to 300 operations just by testing one scenario. I know there's way around it, but I'm just saying something that Make should solve. Include more apps. I was shocked, honestly, not finding a tool like Metricool on Make. It's a tool I use every day, all across the automations I have, especially when it comes to social media. It's a well-known tool. Lots of people depend on it. And even their community is begging them to have it. They don't have it as part of the tool. I don't know if they want Make to do it, or there's an issue that I'm not aware of, but you'd expect such a tool to be there. It's on Zapier. Zapier has, by the way, 6,000 tools, while Make, I think, have 1,500. Most of both these platforms' tools are things that you might not use every day. But one thing like Metricool definitely makes a difference for me when I consider my platform. Now, this might confuse you, so I have put simplify interface. Here, I'm not talking about their builder interface. I'm talking about the custom apps, other things that you can do with Make. I think they're very promising. I think they should make it more friendly for people who are not technical and still want to be on their platform. And those people, I think, are the biggest audience out there who want to go into automation, but they don't know enough to build these things. Lastly, they have a solid community. I said that, but the video content is limited. Like building a custom app, you can read lots of documents, but sometimes you just need videos that walk you through doing this step by step. I've seen only one video on building a custom app. It wasn't comprehensive. So I think Make should push more content from their side, do it in a very detailed manner. I think there's a reason why there's so many users of Make that are content creators on YouTube, and nearly none of them created any video about creating custom apps. I would assume that most of them are not really getting it to a way they can present it. Maybe they solved it by trial and error, but it's not something they can really tell people how to do. So Make, I think this is an important thing for you to cover. So with this, I'll tell you what is my choice. I'm honestly split. So it's more leaning towards Zapier. If you see the arrow, maybe that gave you the idea. Maybe I just confused you, but definitely I'm going to stick with Zapier. Again, my needs are not requiring any scaling. I need to do things quickly that operate seamlessly without any issues. Sometimes I get an idea to build an automation. I want to spend half an hour, 1 hour, maximum 2 hours building something really complex. I don't want to spend more time. I want to test it with ease. And then I want to be able to export it and do other things. I can do all of these things in Zapier, but at the same time, I've been doing automation for some time now, and I started thinking about maybe making some money out of it. When you start thinking about that, you can think about Make, because there's lots of automations that probably businesses out there need that don't require code. If you remember the topic I mentioned about Code by Zapier. Because there are businesses who are actually not interested in using neither tools, but they just want someone to do it for them, or a company to do it for them. So that could be something that at least, if it comes in the future, I need to be really aware of Make and know how to use it. So what I've decided, and this is a tricky decision for me, is I'm going to definitely stick my automation, my personal automation that I have, to keep them on Zapier for Make.com. I'm going to keep my subscription. It will be monthly basis, not annual. I'm going to try to learn as much as possible. And at some point, I'm going to make a decision. That decision could be, yeah, that's a good tool. I think I know how to use it in the future if I need it. And then I'm going to exit. Or I'm going to just commit to that tool and start building on both tools. I think even having both is not a bad idea if this is something you want to do and you can afford. Now, what about you? I think after this video, if you want to make your own decisions, you have really to assess why are you automating things today. If it's something personal, you do not care about doing business with it, you don't care about scaling, and you're on a budget, even if you're on a budget, actually, I would recommend that you go with Zapier. Most of us start saying, I'm going to just do a very simple automation, and you find yourself with more and more needs, because when you realize the power of automation and taking time back to your day through the automations, you would want to do more. But if you're doing it for individual reasons, probably Zapier will be something that you will see really worthwhile. If you want to do more than that, if you have the patience and the time to learn more technical aspects of doing these automations, go to Make. It's, at least if you don't need code, or you can do your own deployment of your apps, it will be definitely cheaper. It has more flexibility, but it comes with more complexity. So think about that. Do not forget, if you think you're going to use code at some point, do not forget about the hidden costs. Do not get lost with the task versus operation number, because I said lots of tasks are coming for free from Zapier. Everything is charged on Make. Finally, I think if you go to either as a start, you will not regret it. You might choose to move to the other one at later stage, depending on your needs. Those are the top 2 solid automation, at least for individual platforms out there, that I think anyone doing anything task heavy should really consider being on. So I hope you liked the video. If you've seen value in it, do not forget to subscribe, like the video. If you really like it, hit that ring icon and share it, and write a comment in the comment section if you want me to do anything deeper or different around Zapier and Make. And with this, thank you and goodbye.